against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. Cover breaking news, culture, matic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Guys, welcome to the number one daily Bitcoin only show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Welcome, it's Monday, we're back. We're almost hitting 50K on Bitcoin's price. It's currently sitting at 49,824. I hope you guys took the opportunity to stack. Anyone who bought before January 9th, I believe, is when the ETF was approved. You ran Wall Street. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing the effects of Wall Street. And Wall Street is just starting to figure out, I just tweeted out this morning, they're just starting to figure out that Bitcoin is designed to go up forever. And it's also a superior asset compared to everything else, right? So the party is just getting started. This is something that Michael Saylor has been touching on for every single interview that he's done, is that this is a new asset class, right? That just came out of nowhere. This has been the best performing ETF since like ever, I believe, right? So it's very, very exciting stuff. And also, Bitcoin got a free ad at the Super Bowl yesterday. And I know it was only a couple seconds, but it was essentially Jack Dorsey wearing a Satoshi shirt with Beyonce and Jay-Z also in the frame. But if you take a look at the Google Trends, a lot of people were searching what Satoshi was. So literally without paying for advertising, Bitcoin got a free ad last night, which was pretty cool. And in other news as well, Joe Biden came out with this really strange video. And again, guys, you guys know we're apolitical on Simply Bitcoin. We don't need left or right. We're not Democrat, Republican. We are on the party of orange, the party of Bitcoin. All that being said, Joe Biden released a video on shrinkflation, right? And essentially, you know, blaming companies as to why companies are continuing to shrink their products, and basically saying, like, you know, if you elect me into office, I'll make sure that doesn't happen. You know, either completely disconnected from reality, gaslighting to the maximum. But government is responsible for that because of inflation. Companies do that because obviously they don't want to raise their prices on their customers. So what they do is that they try to shrink their products, also known as shrinkflation. But he's just essentially blaming the companies for something that the government is solely responsible for. And, you know, of course, this is where, you know, mimetic warfare, internet trench warfare is so important. When those types of videos come out, it's so important that you take agency and action and you get in the comment section. Okay. That video got 25,000 likes. We have a lot of work to do as Bitcoiners to educate the masses, to really get them to understand that, guys, it's not Democrat versus Republican. It's really the party of orange, the party of Bitcoin versus the party of green, the party of fiat, central bank digital currencies, and all that. And also during the culture segment, we have a very special guest today. We have Seth for Privacy from Foundation Devices, and we're going to talk about why self-custody is important. Of course, we're going to talk about Passport, the Passport hardware wallet, and of course, why you should buy real Bitcoin and take self-custody of that real Bitcoin versus buying the convenient Bitcoin, also known as the captured Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETF. And I think Seth is the perfect person to have that conversation with. So it's going to be a great show, ladies and gentlemen. And we just broke 50K in the opening monologue. We're at $50,029. There's going to be a show. I'm going to bring up Seth on stage. Seth, welcome back to Simply Bitcoin. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me, Nico. Really excited to chat today. Lots of fun stuff and lots of craziness last night too at the Super Bowl. So yeah, it should be fun.
So it's so funny because like Bitcoiners were like literally focused, instead of focusing on the game and like, you know, the OT, because it was a crazy game, right? It went into overtime. You know, all the Bitcoiners were just focusing like, oh my God, Jack wore a Satoshi shirt. This was crazy. So yeah, it was a crazy Super Bowl to say the least. And also another historic moment for Bitcoin. I want to bring up my legendary co-host who's like kind of smiling. So not starting Monday off strong, Opti. What's going on, bro?
We're great, man. It was a great weekend.
Smile. You got Opti, you got to smile, bro.
I'm smiling, bro. You know, life is good. Vulture's album dropped this weekend. It's bangers. We got a free Super Bowl ad at Super Bowl 58. Shouts out to Jack Dorsey. I hung out all weekend, ate some good food, got some exercise in, man. God's good. Life's great. And then I get to show up on Monday and talk Bitcoin with my friends. Like, this is awesome. What a life. What a life we're living. How could I not be smiling, Nico? You caught me in a moment where I was reading the chat and, I thought it was like delaying. But yeah, anyways, we're good to go, bro. We're good to go.
It's going to be a great show, guys. All right, no more delay. Let's jump straight into it. But before we do that, I do want a very special shout out to our flagship sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the Bitcoin Well. Guys, buy real Bitcoin. This is the first Bitcoin on-ramp to they're a publicly traded company in Canada, but they're the first Bitcoin on-ramp in the United States that is Bitcoin custody by default. That's right. You can't buy Bitcoin with Bitcoin Well unless you are going to take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with Simply Bitcoin's ethos, which is a separation of money and state. Future-proof your money. Take back your independence. Check out Bitcoin Well today. Go to bitcoinwell.com, sign up, check out the platform. And all right, guys, no more delay. Let's jump straight into the numbers. We have a lot to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, guys, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their site. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $50,020. We have broken 50K, ladies and gentlemen. Live on the stream. I'm gonna have to bring back Satoshi the chicken soon. I don't know if you guys are new to the channel. Satoshi the chicken used to be this rubber chicken that would cluck every time the price of Bitcoin breaks all-time high. We're gonna have to bring him back soon. The Bitcoin price is sitting pretty at $50,040. Sats per dollars continues to go below 2K. We're at 1,997 sats per dollar. Block height 830,171. Blocks to halving 9,829. Halving estimate April 18, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity 4,740 Bitcoin. Capacity value 237 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation 1.75%. The market capitalization almost kissing that $1 trillion market cap is at $983 billion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap is at 7.13%. In the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin is just getting started. Quick ETF update. We were going to be doing this more and more, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to heyapollo.com. They have this great kind of graphic, and it shows how much Bitcoin, BlackRock, and Fidelity are holding. They're obviously continuing to stack, which means that there's more and more institutional interest coming out of Wall Street. Wall Street loves this thing. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's the best asset the world has ever seen. BlackRock is currently sitting, you saw that, at 78,000 Bitcoin, almost at 80,000. Are they going to catch Michael Saylor? Maybe, perhaps. But I also think that that thing is dated, because I just take a look at the BitcoinTreasuries.net. Shout out to CoinKite for developing this. iShares Bitcoin Trust 87,780 Bitcoin, and Fidelity Wise is holding 69,433 Bitcoin. So I think this one is a little bit outdated. Anyways, I do have a clip from Anthony Pompliano, and he's talking about Bitcoin on Squawk Box, and he's saying he's dropping some sauce. So the video is about 5 minutes long. I don't know if we'll get through the entire thing, but let's play it and then we'll talk about it. Let's check it out. Here we go.
Welcome back to Spot Box. The price of Bitcoin crossing back over the $48,000 level over the weekend, 1 month this after the launch of the Spot Bitcoin ETF. This morning, trading slightly lower. Joining us right now is Anthony Pompliano, founder of Pomp Investments. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
This has been a bit of a wild ride because we talked about sort of selling the news or selling the rumor, buying the rumor, selling the news. But now we've come back to buying.
Yeah. I mean, look, the verdict's in, right? Wall Street doesn't just like Bitcoin, they love Bitcoin. If you think of these assets, there's been over 5,500 ETF launches in history. Never have we had a fund get to $3 billion in AUM in the first 30 days. BlackRock and Fidelity both just did it. So 2 for the first time in history. And then if you look at Bitwise and 21 Shares, ARK, they're both going to hit $1 billion this year or this week. And so now you have 4 funds that are going to hit $1 billion of inflows. But the most interesting part of this is the inflows. I mean, these funds are doing $500 million a day of net inflows, but there's only 900 Bitcoin that's actually coming into the daily incoming supply. And so when you look at that, that's like $40 to $45 million. There's 12.5x more demand for Bitcoin than what's being produced on a daily basis.
So how much of this do you think is being generated by the ETFs themselves?
Well, I mean, you just measure the actual net inflows, right? And so you can just see there is way more buying pressure.
So you're saying $3 billion for BlackRock?
There's $4 billion now for BlackRock, 3.5 for Fidelity, and then you've got Bitwise and 21 Shares will both hit about $1 billion this upcoming week.
Total valuation,
So
though.
I'm going to pause it right there because there's so much to unpack there. Basically, there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. And ladies and gentlemen, the halving is coming up in 2 months. You want to know why Bitcoin is sitting pretty at $50,040? This is why. There's not enough Bitcoin for BlackRock, Fidelity to buy, right? You know, Seth, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's 900 Bitcoin per day that's produced. That's about to get cut in half in April, right? And you know, if I read you guys the numbers on Friday's episode, which you guys clearly enjoyed, which was how much Bitcoin do you need to be in the top 1%? And one of the data points that I dropped on you guys was, hey, there's roughly 60 to 70 million millionaires all around the world. If every single millionaire wanted just 1 Bitcoin, there physically isn't enough for them, right? And this has never been seen before. Even with gold, which is a very scarce asset, you know, if the price of the price of gold goes up, what tends to happen is gold production goes up as well. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, the production stays the same. In fact, not only does it stay the same, it actually gets cut in half every 4 years, which is about to happen in April, right? So you're witnessing literally a supply shock happening in real time. And we're sitting now at 50,107. This is just the beginning. The bull market hasn't even started yet. I'm thinking it's starting. Again, we don't speculate on Simply Bitcoin, but if history repeats itself, it usually starts about 9 months after the halving. So about November of this year is really when we're going to start to see things really ramp up. But I mean, 50,107, we're only, you know, about 20K, less than 20K from all-time high, which is absolutely crazy. It's been a tough bull market, but guys, if you've been listening to Simply Bitcoin's advice, which is stacking sats, staying humble, and staying solvent, you know, you're winning right now. Even if you bought the top in 2021, you're in the green right now. If you've just been DCAing the entire time, which is what we advocate for on Simply Bitcoin, but not only also doing all those things, but taking that Bitcoin into self-custody. Of course, we recommend getting yourself a hardware wallet and getting yourself a passport by Foundation Devices. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to get our panel's thoughts. First, I'm going to start off with you, Seth. Seth, you know, dude, I've known you for a while. This bear market was rough to say the least. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I think a lot of us have this PTSD, brother. You know, after 2 years of crawling in the trenches, you know, fighting the good fight, you know, you see the light, but you almost don't believe it. You're in disbelief. You're like, is this real? I tweeted out on Sunday. I was like, I almost forgot this feeling, almost, you know? So it's just very cool, but it's also a vindication of Bitcoiners, right, that have been saying this for many, many years. It's a vindication of Michael Saylor on the public company level, and it's also a vindication of Nayib Bukele on the nation state level. This is what winning looks like. I think, I think Pomp really, really hit the nail on the head. There's just not enough Bitcoin for these guys, right? And that's going to cause a supply shock. And I think that's what we're going to start to see, in the next couple of months. Anyway, Seth, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I echo the sentiment. I've only worked in Bitcoin during a bear market, and most of like the things that I've done in the space have all been during a bear market. I haven't really had that much exposure to a bull. I got in right at the end of the 2017, 2018 bull market. So I had that bit of one whenever the last one was, 2021 or something. But the big thing for me is I love bull markets, not necessarily. I mean, the price appreciation is obviously key, but the real thing that I love about them is that it brings in new Bitcoiners to the space. It brings in new people who come in for price only, just like I did, just like most people who are in the space now, even if we've shifted focus to more of the freedom money aspects of Bitcoin. But it brings in new entrants, and it gives us a chance as educators, as content creators, as people building tools for newcomers to Bitcoin, to get these into the hands of people, to show them why self-custody matters, why it's about more than just the price appreciation against fiat. You could just buy an ETF if you only care about making more fiat, but obviously we see Bitcoin as a tool for freedom in a much more broad sense. So I'm really excited to finally be able to experience a bull market, to see what that means for the people who have been building on Bitcoin throughout the bear, and see what that means for Foundation as we really focus on building tools for people who are new to Bitcoin, not the hyper technical people, even though it can expand to that, but really building tools that are really easy and approachable to use. So I'm really excited for all the things that us and many others in the Bitcoin space have been building over the past years of a bear market, and a little sad about the bull market just because things go nuts during the bull market and a lot of the kind of signal gets lost in the noise. But obviously there's always bad that comes with the good. So
it's a little bit different also. And I love how, you said basically, you started your Bitcoin journey in a bear market. Same thing. Simply Bitcoin was born like right in the beginning of the bull. So we didn't really have all that foundation. No pun intended. We didn't have that foundation built out, to fully take advantage of that incoming adoption wave that inevitably happens with number go up, right? So yeah, I'm really, really excited for that as well. But I'm sure you guys feel it over at Foundation. But you start the numbers start to go up, not only in Bitcoin terms, but it also engagement terms, view terms. As more and more people start to get interested again, you start getting texts from your long lost friends that you haven't talked to in 10 years saying, "Hey man, how are you? How are things?" My mom's already been a Bitcoiner since 2016 by now. So, but I remember the first cycle that she went through, you'd start to get the text from mom saying like, "Oh, how can I buy more? How this is so exciting again." Now she's a full-fledged Bitcoin. I don't get those texts anymore. But yeah, man, it's very, very exciting stuff. There's a supply shock incoming. Ladies and gentlemen, don't sell your Bitcoin to BlackRock, number one. Don't get caught with your pants down. Don't buy that captured Bitcoin. Don't do it. Buy Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, and take that sweet, sweet Bitcoin into self-custody. Opti, what's your take on what Pomp was saying?
Yeah, well, I saw this other tweet. It was in meme form, so I think I'll put it on the meme review. But I really do believe people don't understand digital scarcity, like 21 million hard cap. It's really incredible once you wrap your head around it. And we're seeing it's been a month since the ETF launch, and the amount of Bitcoin that they're scooping up is absolutely insane. I think the numbers I saw was like 8,000 Bitcoin a day or something like. I really don't think people are ready for what's about to happen in this bull run. And I hate to be like, or the next leg of this bull run, I hate to be like, this time's different, but this time's different. It really does feel like that. And we'll see what happens. And it's just very interesting. And Nico, people in the chat are getting mad saying that there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. There's definitely enough Bitcoin to go around when the price goes up. This is the feature, not a bug. So I know like Seth was saying, that bull runs are absolutely crazy. And a lot of us Bitcoiners enjoy the bear markets a lot more because there's less hype, there's less FOMO. And once the price starts running, that's all anyone even cares about. We all lose our minds. You know, I remember Pierre Rochard in 2017, 2020 saying like, oh, it's hyper Bitcoinization now. And we all just lost our minds. I'm going to try to do my best to stay level headed, but I've been telling you guys for a long time, I'm going to be like the most bull-tarded ever. So I'm going to probably be saying some crazy stuff.
We're at 50,300, by the way. So this
and I'm already excited. Like, I'm already excited, but it feels good to be back at 50K. It was a rough bear market. And, you know, you keep saying that Saylor and Bukele are going to be vindicated, Nico. I feel vindicated. Finally, my friends and family can look at me and they're like, he's not an idiot. You know, I've yet to get the text messages from friends and family. Occasionally, like my dad will be like, hey, good job. Like your little internet pet money is it's actually a thing now. But I have yet to get my friends to text me. So it's not a bull run until you get those text messages from your friends. But man, it is awesome to see the Bitcoin signal continue to spread on the corporate press. And, you know, I think this is just going to be a reoccurring theme where more and more signal gets out to the masses and Bitcoin starts to saturate popular culture, as we're starting to see slowly but surely. And like Seth's saying, you know, this is going to give us an opportunity, not only here at Simply Bitcoin or at Foundation, but every single one of us, to ensure that the new people coming into the space understand why we Bitcoin, how to secure their Bitcoin correctly. Because I remember in 2017 when I got in, of course, you know, came for the money, stayed to fix the money. I made every mistake possible. And now this run, I really do feel like the Bitcoin content space, the Bitcoin education space, the Bitcoin entertainment space, like we've built a solid foundation. And so there's going to be a lot less excuses for newcomers to get wrecked in shitcoins. And it's just, I really think this time might be different. I know, cue the tomatoes, but it really does feel like this time might be a little different.
Yeah, and I also think a lot of people have PTSD from the last bull market that was cut short. A lot of people were speculating that, you know, I mean, and I think there's some truth to that, right? It's the rehypothecation by FTX and all those scams. But I really think like the main catalyst of why we didn't hit 100K last cycle was the CCP Bitcoin mining ban. If you take a look at the hash rate and you take a look at the Bitcoin price, as soon as the hash rate started to drop, the price went down with it. Why? Because those are miners selling a lot of Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin and assets to relocate to more favorable jurisdictions. I don't think that's going to happen this time, right? I think we might be in for a pleasant surprise. But again, guys, you know we don't like to speculate on this channel. Just stack those sweet Satoshis. Before Wall Street, do you really want Larry Fink to beat you to the punch? Imagine having to explain that to your grandchildren 20 years from now. That's not going to be a great conversation. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, no more delay. Let's jump straight into the news. We have a lot to talk about. Let's check it out. Here we go. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Have you ever wanted to get into Bitcoin mining and don't know where to start? That's why I want to introduce you to Scott's Build a Mine Bootcamp. He will show you how to build your own Bitcoin mine, how to get the project funded, how to get your facility filled with miners as quickly as possible. With a little luck, and by putting all his techniques and strategies to work that he's developed mining Bitcoin for the last 6 years, you could be mining 5 million Satoshis per day or 0.05 Bitcoin in less than 3 months. On the free webinar, he will give you a high-level roadmap that will help you get on your way to building, owning, and operating your own Bitcoin mining farm. Begin your mining journey today. Register for the free webinar now. Click the link in the description of the video below or contact Scott directly on Telegram using his handle @OfferedScott and learn how to mine those precious, precious Satoshis.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, guys, before we jump into it, I do want to make it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen now directly to Scott's Build a Mine Bootcamp, where you could learn how to build your own Bitcoin mine. And of course, get yourself a Passport hardware wallet. Remember, guys, not your keys, not your cheese. Bitcoin self-custody done right. You definitely want to take self-custody. Of course, we recommend our sponsor, the best Bitcoin hardware wallet, Passport by Foundation Devices. All right, guys, no more delay. Let's jump straight into the news. We have a lot to talk about today. So first up, Bitcoin got a free ad at the Super Bowl. Shout out to Jack Dorsey. Here was the clip. And essentially, it's Beyonce, it's Jay-Z, and next to Jay-Z is Jack Dorsey wearing that Satoshi shirt. And it's crazy because he's done this 2 Super Bowls in a row. And I know what you guys are saying, like, Nico, this isn't a free Bitcoin ad. Like, this is just like a couple seconds on airtime. I don't think people understand how much people are watching this happening in real time. I dropped a meme yesterday just to kind of a little bit of a troll. It's the famous it's George W. Bush thing. It says, sir, they managed to air a Bitcoin ad for free because there wasn't any Bitcoin ads yesterday. But let's get into the numbers. Did this actually make a difference? Absolutely. Check out the Google Trends. The moment this happened, wow. It goes from 0 to 100. This went all the way to 100 when this happened exactly during the Super Bowl. And It's been quite active so far. So people are asking, what is Satoshi? So this, ladies and gentlemen, was a free ad during the Super Bowl. This actually made a difference. When we talk about winning over the hearts and minds, when we talk about winning over the culture, ladies and gentlemen, how more effective is this than winning over the culture next to 2 musical legends, Jay-Z, Beyonce, and of course a Satoshi shirt right there. Like, this is how far Bitcoin has come. If you would have told me this was going to happen 5 years ago, you would have laughed me out of the room. Jack Dorsey 100% did this on purpose. This was strategic. This was on purpose, and he got the job done. So he got the job done. So shout out to Satoshi. We also have, just on YouTube alone, almost 500 live viewers, 600 live viewers across all live platforms. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the YouTube algo. Anyways, let's get into today's news in terms of the total gaslighting coming out of the White House. So first of all, they took advantage of the Super Bowl to kind of drop. This is a meme, Opti. This qualifies as a meme, right?
Yes.
It is, right? You're the meme expert.
This is
so
definitely a meme.
This definitely qualifies as a meme.
A bad one, but a meme.
A bad meme. And to kind of, if you want a little bit of a curveball, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of memes, Joe Biden, I thought this was fake. No, this is real. It says, just like we drew it up, that's Joe Biden with laser eyes. Obviously, it's not what laser eyes means for us Bitcoiners, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Mematic warfare, guys, don't sleep on it. Anyway, so this is essentially the message that they're trying to get across. Shrinkflation is when companies reduce the size of a product while keeping the price the same or even increasing it, which means you're getting less for every dollar you spend. Like, I wonder why that happens. Well, I'll let Jeff Booth perfectly describe it. Correction. Some governments are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the value of their currency little by little, hoping you won't notice. I'm tired of it too. Now, let's take a look. Propaganda is a strong word, okay? But let's take a look at the propaganda coming out of the current administration. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we are not left versus right. We are not Democrat versus Republican. Keep your eye on the prize. You're on Team Orange if you're on the side of Bitcoin. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I'll vote for you if you support Bitcoin. Anyways, so let's check this out. And of course, we're making progress, right? RFK Jr., protect your right to self-custody. Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy tapped on Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is talking about central bank digital currencies, bringing that into the political discourse. So we are making progress, right? Little by little. Anyways, let's take a look at this video, guys, and then we'll all talk about it. Let's check it out.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. When buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging it just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
You're right. The American public is tired for playing for suckers, and it's you guys that are debasing the currency that is causing this in the first place, right? So if you want to stop being a sucker, instead of guys, okay, so hold on, it is an election year, so I have to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your duty as a citizen to go get out and vote by taking Bitcoin into self-custody. That is the most powerful vote that you can make, and that is the vote that will actually, make change. And also another thing that I got to notice, and shout out to Saifedean, these are the most fiat, excuse my language, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time I'm going to curse throughout the show. These are the most fiat fucking foods that you can think of, right? How much seed oils is just in there, right? That's a effing bag of Doritos. There's ingredients in Doritos that you can't even you can't even read. They're like hyproxylecta, it's like some weird stuff. Anyways, so everything wrong with, the government being involved in money, if it were to be summarized in one video, here you go. Total gaslighting, taking no responsibility for the actions they caused. And then once again, the worst part is that they're saying, hey guys, vote for me so I could fix the problem that I caused by trying to control private companies, aka price controls, which, if you take a look at history, even going back to the Roman era, has never worked to solve these problems in the first place. This is absolute lunacy. This is ridiculous. Anyways, so we got two topics, right? First topic, Seth, that I want to get your take on is Jack Dorsey's free ad. He snuck in a free advertisement into the Bitcoin Super Bowl, which in terms of moving the Overton window, I think is a really big effing deal.
I think I need a slightly bigger TV because I was trying to figure out what in the world was on his shirt. So I'm glad that other people caught videos so I could figure it out. I was like, I'm pretty sure that says Satoshi, but I couldn't pause it. Only poor antenna man here. So pretty damn cool, honestly. And I think especially cool that it's something not just like the word Bitcoin. I think it's especially intriguing for people to try to figure out like what in the world Satoshi is. I don't know if that's why he got into a box with Beyonce and Jay-Z, but I'll take it. It was pretty interesting. He's done some good things in the space and obviously is a deep believer in Bitcoin. So I'm glad that he's getting the word out that way. And like you said, I mean, like mimetic warfare and getting things out into the culture itself is a huge way that we wake people up to what Bitcoin can be. Because who knows how many of those people who looked up Satoshi are actually falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole right now because they finally had that second look. They've been meaning to look back into Bitcoin and figure out what it is. And they start to dig in because they see Satoshi, look up the word, realize it's about Bitcoin and dive in. So hopefully it's bringing people into actual Bitcoin. But nevertheless, sounds like some people probably falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole there.
100%. And I agree with you. Maybe maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he did it strategically, right? We don't quite know. I would like to believe that he did it strategically, right? Speaking about cultural icons in the US, like it's Jay-Z and Beyonce, right? So anyways, I don't really listen to that stuff anymore, but from
you should have gotten in the Taylor Swift box though. If you really wanted to get the airtime. I think about half the game was just shots of Taylor Swift for some reason. So
we would have won at that point. It would have been game over. Bitcoin would already be at 500,000. If he was able to do that. So Jack Dorsey, you got feedback from Seth for privacy. Next time, get in the Taylor Swift box. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, first on touching on the Jack Dorsey shirt, the Satoshi shirt, he actually wore the same shirt last year at the Super Bowl, also in
his beard got bigger. His beard got bigger.
Also in the same box. So it's definitely by design, and you just love to see it. I don't think last year he was flashed on the screen. So this year we did get the free Bitcoin ad. And some cynics, when we posted this on Twitter, like, oh yeah, like people are making financial decisions based on a billionaire's t-shirt. Well, look, the Google Trends ad show otherwise. People have looked into it, but I think people really underestimate just how powerful like subliminal messaging is. And the more people are exposed to Satoshi or Bitcoin, just in average everyday culture, the more they look into it. Remember the whole people need multiple touch points to Bitcoin? This might have been people's first touch point. And of course, they're probably not even going to recognize it, but one day they'll hear the name Satoshi Nakamoto and maybe it'll trigger. And I think people underestimate, and I know Bitcoiners are very anti-sports ball, but I think the estimates that I saw yesterday, I didn't look at the actual numbers this morning, but I think the estimates was like roughly 110 million people watch the Super Bowl. So that just means roughly 110 million people were just exposed either to their first touch point, maybe their multiple touch points to Bitcoin. And this is how we saturate the culture. So love to see it. This is mimetic warfare happening in real time and just absolutely love it. And let's not forget that Jack and Jay-Z have that Brooklyn financial education class, and it revolves around Bitcoin. So the message is spreading out there. Of course, it's not Jay-Z's job to be what Simply Bitcoin does and just only push Bitcoin. But hey, that's why we will still have a job for a long time, Nico. Anyways, let's move over to the Joe Biden video, which is, in my opinion, just absolutely disgusting. Actually, before I do that, the meme. Dude, Joe Biden with laser eyes. I know he's not like using Bitcoin memes, but it's our meme world and everyone else is just living in it. Just, you love to see it. Hopefully the intern that's actually in control of this is a Bitcoiner and he's just like, yeah, let's do this. I know I'm speculating and it's probably not the case, but anyways, the video, the shrinkflation video, I think is very telling. And of course, I think it's disgusting because the amount of gaslighting that is going on there. Joe Biden pushing the responsibility from the money printers to the corporations is such a dirty tactic. It's absolutely incredible. And this isn't a new tactic. We've been seeing this for a long time. I know amongst the younger generation, there is a very big anti-corporation trend amongst people that don't really understand where the problem's coming from. And, you know, capitalism, in quotes, gets thrown under the mud a lot. And there's a lot of like, what's that meme? Eat the rich memes. And there's a lot of hate towards corporations as, you know, greedy people that are out to destroy the world. When if you really look at the basics of economics and you understand, you know, private markets and corporations, like they're literally providing all the tools and technology that you guys enjoy and use and makes your lives even more comfortable and more creative. So I think it's absolutely just despicable that Joe Biden is going out here and passing blame to the corporations when they're really just reacting to the free market. And yes, I don't like shrinkflation at all. You know, I don't like buying the whatever, you know, my Tostitos, those are delicious. Sorry guys, they're in the ad. I'm Mexican, they're good. Seed oils, whatever. I like them. I'll eat them occasionally. Anyways, no one likes shrinkflation, but this is just the market reacting to the fact that our purchasing power is being destroyed. Inflation hurts all of us, not only destroying our purchasing power, but it hurts corporations, and they won't be able to survive if they aren't able to sell the products, and your lives won't be as comfortable as they are. Whether you're eating seed oils or not, you should try to eat as much steak as possible. But this is just my personal beliefs here. But I think this just goes to show one thing I've been saying on the show for a long time. As long as people believe in this nonsense, they will continue to propagate these memes. And this is why, as Bitcoiners, as average everyday people, it's super important to try to have these conversations with your friends and family and try to correct their faulty thinking and their faulty points of views on what's going on. The main issue is the amount of money that they printed. We are all getting poorer, and we are seeing the results in real time. And this is why we see the shrinkflation happening. And this is why you see the flip side of Joe Biden trying to basically gaslight the population into diverting, the attention from them being the problem to, these greedy corporate capitalists, businessmen, they're ruining the world. When it's like, guys, you are printed. I don't even know what the number is. It's like, I think it's now like at least 50% of the money supply since 2020. Like, we're at $34 trillion, like printing money out of thin air. This is the problem. And this is why everything is getting worse. That's why the meme, fiat is number go down technology, is such a strong meme.
Amen to that. Amen to that. They don't call him St. Opti for no reason. I do want to get Seth's take. Seth, what's your take on the Joe Biden? I'm going to keep saying it because it really was propaganda, right? What's your take on the current administration? What's your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I think propaganda is the perfect word to use there. I don't think it's too harsh. Pretty much every entity that seeks power is trying to wield propaganda as a tool. And we often associate that with like the Nazis or something, but propaganda is just a good word for a marketing tool by those in power, trying to suppress others or get you to go along with what they believe. So I think it's a good term to apply there. The biggest thing for me is inflation and shrinkflation are both real and problematic. And really, everyone is exploiting the same problem. So the government is exploiting printing money to be able to continue to wield power, to fund the things that they want, to fund unjust wars, etc. And then corporations are seeing that inflation becomes a popular narrative, and they're able to use that to do shrinkflation in a way that people don't freak out about, because they are able to keep the prices the same. Maybe sometimes they go up as well as shrinking, but they also shrink them so that people don't freak out about inflation at Taco Bell or when you're buying your Doritos or whatever. So it's kind of it's a both and. Both the corporations are doing something that they shouldn't, and the government is doing something that they shouldn't, and they both benefit from it. So it's really one of those things where, just like with about everything else that we talk about within the Bitcoin ecosystem and the freedom ecosystem, your best choice is opt out. I haven't seen any shrinkflation with the beef farmers that I buy beef with Bitcoin from. I haven't seen any shrinkflation from the people that I buy eggs for Bitcoin from. I don't see any of that when I'm actually interacting with real people. Sometimes prices go up a little bit because their prices go up because they have to buy other things, but they're transparent. They're not hiding these things. There's none of that happening there. So I think that's another case of we can opt out of both the corporate side of things by not buying the garbage that they put on screen as the examples of shrinkflation, doing better for our bodies anyways, but then also really trying to make relationships with people who are in the Bitcoin ecosystem, who are making the goods and providing the services that we need, and trying to really contribute to the circular economy within Bitcoin. Because I think that's the strongest way that we can push back on this. Unfortunately, voting is probably not going to do any good here. And even then, the only real power that the government has to stop shrinkflation is to price fix, which has its own terrible ramifications. So yeah, my thing is definitely propaganda. Opt out, vote with your money, use your Bitcoin, buy things with Bitcoin, buy services with Bitcoin from other Bitcoiners, and that's how we beat the system.
That's how we win. Exactly.
Wait, Nico, before we go on, I think Seth just dropped a new meme. I know we all say 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, but 1 pound of ribeye equals 1 pound of ribeye forever.
Amen to that. Amen to that. All right, guys, before we get to the culture to talk to Seth about self-custody and also the Passport by Foundation, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Bitcoin Evangelism, planting the seeds for the decentralized revolution. We have 10 million people to orange pill. Bitcoin Evangelism by Brian DeMint is an absolute beast of a resource for orange pilling no-coiners and altcoiners alike. This is a book for Bitcoiners who know Bitcoin but have a hard time explaining it to their friends. It's a book for Bitcoiners who are trying to explain Bitcoin only to altcoiners. It's available on Amazon. You could scan the QR code on your screen right now, or you could check the link in the video description. If you have an aunt, an uncle, a brother, whoever it is, and you have a hard time orange pilling orange pilling them. Get yourself a copy of Bitcoin Evangelism. It will arm you with the tools in order to orange pill them. Anyways, guys, let's get to the culture. We have a lot to talk about. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
All right, guys, I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Kabimrex. My voice cracked. Let's try it again. Kabimrex, the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You got to check out their racks, and you can do that by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, where you can connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. And what about selling? Of course, you could sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. You could access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your equipment with them. This is where I personally buy my Bitcoin mining ASICs. Guys, what are you waiting for? Start your Bitcoin mining utopia today. Check out our boys at Kaboom Racks. All right, everybody. Let's talk about some self-custody. Seth, I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off right from the beginning. This ETF, man. ETF, a lot of people are getting comfortable with it. They're buying that captured Bitcoin. If you had an elevator pitch, why should people buy real Bitcoin, spot Bitcoin, and not only just buy it, but properly secure it, with a hardware wallet? Why should people do that? Why should people buy real Bitcoin and put it into cold storage, which is a little bit less convenient than buying the spot Bitcoin ETF? Why should people do that versus buying the ETF?
I mean, if I have to sum it up really simply, it's Bitcoin that you actually hold gives you freedom. ETFs might give you fiat. That's about it. They're not something you can actually use to spend. You can't get into the circular economy. You can't choose how you use the money that you make from them, because it's all going to be taxed, surveilled, etc. So actually holding Bitcoin in self-custody is 100% the route to go if you actually want to break free from the broken fiat system. And I think for most people, once they fall down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, they end up there. But I think, unfortunately, everyone kind of has to go through the rabbit hole of just viewing Bitcoin as a tool for increasing your fiat stack. And the ETF is good for that, honestly. And it's hard to talk through, because for a lot of people, the ETF is kind of a good way to be exposed to Bitcoin in things like their 401k that they can't withdraw from without taking a massive tax penalty, etc. So there's some interesting, kind of good sides to the ETF that you can still get Bitcoin exposure, but for something that you can actually use to gain freedom, for something you can actually use to be able to set your family up for generational wealth that isn't under the control of governments and corporations, I think you have to just take the time in self-custody. And a lot of people make it sound harder than it is, but really finding a good wallet app, spending 60 seconds setting it up like Envoy that we make, and just starting to withdraw, getting comfortable with the process. It's really not that hard. Self-custody is really not that hard.
It's not that hard, but Seth, you're saying it's not that hard because your company focuses on making the self-custody experience a lot easier, right? Because that's something that, not to name any names, that's something that, other hardware wallet manufacturers don't really put a lot of emphasis on, specifically Bitcoin only hardware wallet manufacturers. And I think that you guys do an incredible job, not only by the passport, but also with the concierge service that you guys offer, and also the Envoy app, right? Not kidding this. I'm not kidding when I say this, but I was talking with my mother-in-law, and she knows, because she had these very old Ledger Nano, the really old ones, and clearly she had to update her hardware wallet setup. And before me even recommending anything, she's like, because she watches Simply Bitcoin, she's like, Nico, what's that really, really nice hardware wallet that you were talking about? I was like, oh, it's the Passport by Foundation. So clearly you guys have designed this in a way where it's human friendly. And I think that's a key, right? Making something human friendly, because at the end of the day, we are human beings after all. And the best kind of example, and then I'll get off my soapbox, is there was this prediction in the 90s where they basically were saying that there's going to be a personal computer inside everyone's home. That was the prediction, right? So everyone was going to have this desktop with the keyboard and this. Now, that prediction was right. Now, where they got it wrong is that personal computer was this. It wasn't the keyboard. It wasn't the monitor. It wasn't the desktop, right? So I believe that you have to make things human friendly for humans to actually be like, okay, that's something that I actually want to use. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Seth.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I think you kind of nailed it on the head that there's been a long running problem in the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is that most of the people building tools for Bitcoin are extremely technical, brilliant people, and they build the tools that they want, which is totally fine. That is one of the beautiful things about especially things that are actually free and open source. You can build it to be exactly what you want. You can use someone else's project that's free and open source and remake it into something that's exactly what you want as a user. But a lot of times we lose focus on who we want getting into Bitcoin and who we want being able to use Bitcoin. And we only see ourselves when we're building the tools, and we don't think about the less technical people out there. And I think it's been a problem in Bitcoin really since its inception, but it's something that is finally starting to shift, I think, in some products and some apps out there. But the change in our focus at Foundation that I think is different from a lot of others is that we see Bitcoin as a tool that we want in the hands of as many people as possible without sacrificing self-custody, without sacrificing being free and open source. So those are two things that are just totally non-negotiable for us. And in order to do that, but make things approachable and usable, it takes a ton of time, a ton of effort, a ton of design work, a ton of time testing, a ton of time breaking things down within the team. We need people who are from all technical backgrounds, from non-technical backgrounds, to really build these things in a way that makes them approachable. Because I'm not here in Bitcoin, working in Bitcoin to help technical users use Bitcoin. There's other tools for that. There are fantastic things out there that they can use. But the thing for me is, I think my name should probably more aptly be Seth for Freedom rather than Seth for Privacy at this point. But the moniker is kind of stuck. But ultimately, I want to see people reach digital freedom. And the best way that they can do that financially is through using something like Bitcoin that's actually self-custodied. And if the tools are only available for the technical user or require you to watch 10 hours of YouTube tutorials to be able to use, it's just not something that most people are going to do. And instead, what are they going to do? They're going to just fall back to the ETF. They're going to say, I can just get the price exposure through Fidelity. I'm just going to roll with this. And ultimately, we lose people in the freedom movement because we don't make the tools approachable enough. So that's the big shift in focus that I think is fairly unique to Foundation. There's others in the space that are taking the same approach as well. But I think that's the main thing that we really try to focus hard on is we want this to be something you can pick up, you can use, you can get started very, very quickly, both Envoy from the mobile wallet side, Passport from the cold storage side, and it's something that really anybody can use.
Yeah, 100%. And we did get a comment from someone in the audience. He said, Samuel Adams said, I wanted to send Bitcoin from Ledger to Passport, but I heard Ledger attached some type of tracking. Seth, this is right up your alley. What would you advise Samuel Adams?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's definitely no problems with sending from Ledger to Passport. The way that I'd recommend doing it is to not use Ledger Live, which is the tool that Ledger actually gives you to use your Ledger hardware wallet. That is absolutely just chock full of trackers. It's insane the amount of privacy invasion that they intentionally put in there to try to use your data for their advantage, to try to make money off of your data. So the best way to actually then use your Ledger and move those funds into something that's actually free and open source, something that actually cares about your privacy, like Passport, is to use a really good desktop wallet called Sparrow Wallet. Sparrowwallet.org. There are sometimes phishing websites out there, so make sure that you type it carefully, or maybe we can drop a link in the chat. But using Sparrow Wallet, you can connect your Ledger device to Sparrow Wallet. Essentially, it just acts as the software wallet for that, kind of like Ledger Live would. But it does so in a way that doesn't give up all your information. It has no tracking in it. The tool is totally free and open source. It's absolutely fantastic. That's the way that I would actually send the funds from Ledger. And then you can send them into your Passport, either also in Sparrow Wallet. Passport connects directly to Sparrow Wallet and works very, very well with it. Or you can send them through Sparrow to maybe Envoy if you're using our mobile app that pairs with Passport. Just go ahead and copy paste the address, send it to yourself in Signal or something like that, and go ahead and send those funds over once you verify address, all of that normal stuff. But that's the big thing for me. Get away from Ledger Live as soon as possible. It's an absolute privacy nightmare. Use something like Sparrow Wallet, and then ideally move your funds to something that actually cares about you, that's built by people who care about privacy, like Passport by Foundation.
And guys, I put it on screen. So you can go to sparrowwallet.org or you can go to sparrowwallet.com. They will take you to the same domain. But be very, very careful, guys, on which, because there's a ton of phishing websites, like Seth said, and it will take you to a nefarious wallet. But even if it takes you, like, and this is the awesome part about getting yourself a hardware wallet, because even if it takes you to a quote unquote nefarious site, the hardware wallet is the last line of defense, right? So you still have the option on the hardware wallet, if you're doing it properly, you're not being lazy, to really verify what it is you're sending, what it is you're signing for. So I do want to ask you this, Seth, like, there's so many different products right now. There's so many different hardware wallets. If you were to give a quick elevator pitch to our audience, why you would recommend, clearly, because I think all Bitcoiners, and myself included, we feel very, very passionate about what we do. Opti and I, we're in the, the narrative trench warfare. We're trying to convince people, win over the hearts and minds. But Seth, you are in the hardware manufacturing business, right? That's what you guys do over at Foundation Devices. So if you were to give a quick elevator pitch as to why people should choose the Passport by Foundation Devices, what would that pitch be like?
Yeah,
wait,
I think
should we make a sandwich right now?
Go for the.
Okay,
the
hold on,
screenshot.
Opti, turn on your screen, bro. There you go.
Not like you're going to be able to see what's on the screen, but it's there.
Okay, so
we're doing it.
And if we Opti, turn off your screen.
You're gonna update, Opti.
Let's do an Oreo. Let's do an
Oreo. I know.
All right.
I'll turn it off.
Let's do an Oreo right now. There we go. We got a Foundation Oreo. Boom. Oh man.
Touching passports.
Never touch passports.
Okay. So,
anyways,
okay, in all seriousness. So, how would you pitch it to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I also will kind of get out of the way is, obviously there's a conflict of interest. I'm telling you to buy the product that I work at the company who makes. So obviously that exists. But the thing that I'll tell you about that is that I thought about getting into the Bitcoin space for a long time, and I thought really hard about it. I talked to a lot of different people in the space about it. And the thing for me was I was only going to work at a company that was building things the right way, that actually cared about the principles of free and open source software and hardware, that actually cared about user privacy, and not just as a marketing gimmick, but actually had a deep-seated love of personal privacy, and one that was committed to self-custody no matter what. At all costs, we would try to make self-custody as easy as possible and not compromise on that. And so I chose Foundation after I'd already been a Passport user for a long time, already been in the Bitcoin space for a long time, not because I just cared about the product, because I saw that the ethos behind the team was actually one that aligned with Bitcoin, that aligned with my own, and actually sought to bring personal freedom to as many people as possible, which is a big deal. Now, that aside, as for why you should use Passport or Envoy, for me, it comes down to a lot of what we already talked about, which is that I want these things to be approachable, friendly, and enjoyable to use. I know that, especially if we're talking about cold storage, like this may not be something that you pick up all the time. Maybe you just set it up initially, you make sure you have your backups secure, you put it in a drawer, and you don't come back to it for a while. In which case, the tool actually being easy to use becomes even more useful, because even though you may not be using it all the time, so it sounds a little counterintuitive, I've heard many stories of people who set up their hardware wallet, they stack sats directly to it, they forget about it. 2 or 3 years down the line, they go to actually use it, and they have no idea how to use it because it's not intuitive. They have to go through tutorials again. They have to figure out what desktop client they want to use again. They have to kind of relearn the whole system all over again. And I think that's something that isn't true of Passport, because we try to make it very intuitive, both in the actual way the hardware functions, that it's a T9 keyboard that practically everybody has used at some point when cell phones with actual physical keyboards were the thing. And we have great software pairings where you can choose the wallet that is most comfortable for you. If that's Envoy, which is the mobile wallet that we make, it's going to pair perfectly with Passport. You can do your firmware updates directly from your phone. You can send and receive transactions directly from your phone, verify addresses, do all of that no matter where you are. But if you are somebody who loves to really use Bitcoin only at your desktop, you can use things like Sparrow Wallet that we already talked about. And Passport has connection flows built in for all of the main popular, useful wallets out there that guide you through that process on the device. So it's really something to me where it's usability. But then the second big pitch for me is that Passport is not just a beginner entry level tool. It starts as that, and it tries to simplify the process as much as possible for you. But with everything we build, we try to make it so that you can let the tool grow with you. So as you become more comfortable with using Bitcoin, maybe you have Passport, you just keep it super simple, you just withdraw from an exchange, but you start to hear about Bitcoin privacy. You start to wonder, like, how can I actually gain some privacy when I'm using Bitcoin? And you learn about something like Samurai Wallet or Sparrow Wallet, which has mixing built in. Passport will let you just enable an extension, connect it into Sparrow, and start mixing your Bitcoin, gaining privacy for your actual Bitcoin stack directly to Passport very simply. We have video tutorials, written tutorials. It's very straightforward. So it's one of those things where we all start as beginners in Bitcoin. We all start where we don't understand all the terms. We don't know exactly what we want to do with Bitcoin from day one, other than save money in it. But it's something that you can really let grow with you, and that's a big thing that I love as well about it.
Yeah, and we have a very interesting question, right? Because you have been mentioning Sparrow a lot. Mm-hmm. And someone mentioned, like, Seth, like, why not just keep it at Sparrow? And that's a great question, Seth. That's a layup for you.
Yeah. I mean, using Sparrow Wallet itself is 100% a good recommendation. It's the only desktop wallet I think anyone should be using, whether you're using it for kind of a hot wallet setup where your seed and everything is actually on your computer, or you're using it for your cold storage device like Passport. I'm assuming he's probably referring back to the ledger question.
No, the question is phrased with, like, why do I need this if I can just download the Sparrow wallet? And basically it's a question of what is a hot wallet, what is a cold wallet type of question.
Okay, yeah, definitely. It's a different angle than I was going to take, so thank you. Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is that something like Sparrow is totally fine for a small amount of money that's not life-changing. But the problem comes into play when you're using a computer for lots of different things. You're using it for your browsing, you're downloading games to it, you're installing applications. There's a lot of attack surface. There's a lot of ways that malware or an attacker could try and get onto your computer and see that you're using it for Bitcoin and steal the funds, because those funds are actually living on the computer. The seed phrase, the private key for those funds is on that computer. That's pretty much all of the instances that I know of funds being stolen without a $5 inch attack, is that someone's using a mobile wallet or they're using a hot wallet on their desktop. They have some malware that either replaces the address that they're trying to paste to send to, or that actually just straight up finds the seed phrase on the device and sweeps the funds to the attacker's address immediately. That's something that it doesn't happen to everyone, but it's a major risk that doesn't need to exist. So the best way to work around that is to use a piece of hardware that's dedicated for storing your Bitcoin keys. And that is what we call in the industry a hardware wallet. But ultimately what that means is that when you use something like Passport, your private key, your seed phrase, which is the form of the private key that most people know, lives on this device. This device has no internet connection. It has no USB-C connection. USB-C is only for power. There's no physical data connections within here. And it allows you to separate where your actual private key is, where the actual keys that control your Bitcoin are, from your computer, which is most likely riddled with malware, or at least fairly easy to attack these days. Unfortunately, that's just the truth about the cybersecurity landscape today. So what it does is, let's say, like, I think you hit it on the head earlier, Nico, when you mentioned the Sparrow Wallet clones, where people create fake copies of Sparrow Wallet, fake websites, and try to redirect people to download that wallet. If you were using Sparrow as a hot wallet and you installed a malicious version that wasn't created by the Sparrow Wallet devs, but created by someone who was just an attacker trying to steal funds, you install that update, immediately your funds are gone. There's nothing you can do. You can't confirm. There's nothing special that's open to you to protect yourself at that point. As soon as you do it and you open that app, funds are gone, which is terrible. That's life-changing for a lot of people. That shouldn't be something where you're exposing all your funds to. But in that same case where you're using Passport with Sparrow, I think it's a good example. You install this malicious version of Sparrow. It's very easy to get tricked into this. I'm not saying that this is something that only stupid people are going to do or something. This happens all the time to lots of people with lots of different wallets. It's one of the easiest ways to try to steal Bitcoin from people. But let's say you install this malicious version of Sparrow Wallet. It tries to steal your funds, but the private keys aren't in Sparrow Wallet. So what it has to do is it has to prompt you to create a transaction that sends the funds to them, to the attacker, rather than to you, or rather than to the person that you're trying to send funds to. So let's say it does that, it goes through, it creates the transaction. You think you're sending money to Coinbase or whatever. When you go to sign the transaction, you scan it in on Passport, you see all the details on Passport screen as well. So that's where it's going to show you the amount. It's going to show you the address that's being sent to. It's going to show you if any change, any Bitcoin is coming back to you, what address that's going to, what amount that is, the fee that you're paying. You verify all that on this device, which cannot be compromised in the same way as your computer. That instance of Sparrow Wallet that's malicious can't do anything with this. And you'll immediately see that's not the address I was sending to. That's not the amount I was sending, etc. You can just not sign the transaction, turn off Passport, move along with your life, realize that that version of Sparrow Wallet was hacked, and immediately go ahead and fix that problem. Use a different wallet, remove that, use a different computer, etc. So that's the big deal, is that if the app that you're using, whether on your phone or your computer, is compromised, that doesn't compromise your Bitcoin, which is the big deal. And we try to make that separation as easy to use as possible, because when you do use a separate device, there's a little bit of extra friction involved. But all you have to do on Passport to scan and sign transactions is just scan a QR code with Passport. Passport will show you a QR code. You scan with your computer or phone, and then you sign it. You move on. That's it.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point, right? And a lot of people, especially if you're getting into Bitcoin, you have to understand that any wallet that is connected to the internet is a hot wallet. So like if you have a Bitcoin wallet on your phone and that phone is connected to the internet, which is the vast majority of your phone, that is now a hot wallet. If you have a computer that is connected to the internet, which is the vast majority of computers, right? That computer, if you have a Bitcoin wallet on there, is now a hot wallet, right? The benefit of a hardware wallet specifically, all of them do this, but Passport also, is that it's air gapped. This is not connected to the internet, right? So this is your last line of defense. And because of that, like Seth just mentioned earlier on, it gives you that last opportunity that even if your software wallet that you're interacting with to sign that transaction is compromised, you're going to look at you like, wait, that address is not what I was sending it to. So it's that last line of defense. So you want to benefit from a device that stores your Bitcoin private keys outside, not connected to the internet. That's the whole point of it being air gapped, right? And Seth, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not a data. This is power only USB-C. Is that correct?
Yeah. It physically only has the power pins on the PCB. Anyone can verify that if they understand how schematics work and go look at exactly the things that are used to build Passport in the factory. Or you can actually break it down and try to figure that out as well. But that's one thing that we really wanted to do, is make it easy to power without having to expose it to any sort of attacks. So you can plug it into your computer to charge it and not have to worry about if your computer is compromised. You don't have to try and cut the pins yourself or anything like that. It's just power only, because we really think that the QR exchange method of using an air-gapped wallet is actually really smooth, works well on desktop and mobile. There's not much need for the ability to actually plug in your device, because it really adds an attack surface, and it's just really unnecessary. Like I don't want to carry around a USB-C cable to try to connect my Passport to my phone when I need to make a transaction, or to have some cable dangling from my computer to be able to use it when I want to. So QR codes work really well for that.
Absolutely.
All right, Nico, we got one good comment in here.
Let me segue into that. So,
Okay.
So Seth, you were talking about earlier about a potential, a compromised version of Sparrow, right? A hacked version of Sparrow, right? So you have a hacked version of Sparrow on your wallet, but what if you update your Passport and you update it with a hacked firmware, right? Couldn't you make the case that would lead to the same thing?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. And I think it's one that is kind of often misunderstood in the space. So when you go to update Passport, you could try to install any sort of firmware update. If there was a malicious party that was putting out firmware updates pretending to be Foundation, they could send you a file. You could try to install that. The way that firmware updates work on Passport is you just throw them on a micro SD card that sits right at the top, and then you put that micro SD card in your Passport. You try to install the update. You could get that far. But the problem for an attacker at that point is the only firmware that Passport will let you install is firmware that's signed by the developers themselves, by us. And it's by GPG keys, which are another older form of private key cryptography that only we control within the company, that we take great lengths to make difficult to access. And you would have to have an attacker who would compromise multiple members within the team to be able to create a signed firmware that actually would pass that. So it's a massive part of what we do is to make sure that Passport itself within the bootloader that actually handles kind of the low level code within Passport, it's only going to install a firmware version that is actually signed by us. For developers, you can install your own developer key that you can then that can then allow you to install firmware updates. But that's not something that any normal person would do, and you get lots of warnings if you try to do that as well. So we try to make it very clear that if you're trying to install a firmware and it's not signed by us, you're going to know about it, and it's not going to be possible to install in any way. So that's another big separation, where when you're just using a computer and you're installing applications, there's no real verification. You can take the time to do a GPG verification that's similar to what we do with Passport when you're, say, installing Sparrow. It's something I definitely would recommend people to do, because it allows you to ensure that the app that you're actually trying to install is really from the person that you expect it to be. But that is it's a complicated process, and it's one that requires using command line. It's one that just, frankly, most people won't do. Unfortunately, I wish more people would do it, but most people won't do it. But we can abstract that away. You don't need to know how to use GPG. Passport will just verify those keys for you and make sure that anything that you're installing is only created by the foundation team ourselves. And even if one person within the foundation team was malicious, they wouldn't be able to create a firmware that was signed either. So it's another thing where there's even that separation of duties within the foundation team to ensure that if one of us went rogue, we can't ship you a malicious firmware update.
Gotcha. Okay, so we do have a couple more questions in the comments. So first is the confiscation attack vector. So what happens, like, and I'm sure this is going to be happening, especially, I love the book, The Sovereign Individual. So I'm sure this is going to be happening in air travel, coming to an airport near you, right? Where you say you're crossing a border and they find a hardware wallet on there and they confiscate it from you. Obviously, you could say, you know what, you could take it, but I'm not going to give you the PIN. There's a security element on here. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good one, and it's a common one. I actually usually travel with my passport. It's a bad OPSEC thing to say, but I like to have it accessible when I'm gone for long periods of time. The reason why I do that, and I feel comfortable doing it, is because this is an extremely secure device, and it also looks like a phone. So you have some plausible deniability when the TSA agent or whatever wants to know what this is. You can just say it's a dumb phone. It's an old Nokia that you keep around. That's pretty easy to get past on the plausible deniability side. But when you get down to the actual security that's provided by Passport, there's a very important piece of hardware that that every hardware wallet should have, which is called a secure element. It's essentially a piece of hardware that's explicitly designed to only do one thing, which is to store a secret well and allow that secret to be able to be used to sign things and to verify things without actually exposing the secret to the rest of the actual hardware device or to the outside world. And Passport uses a secure element as part of the way that it stores the seed phrase, the private key on the device. It does so in a way where even if the secure element itself was broken, you'd also have to break into the actual CPU that's in here to be able to get the actual seed phrase. So it's broken up so that you have to basically pwn all of the hardware. And that's something that just simply isn't possible for anyone but a nation state. Now, any hardware wallet manufacturer that tells you that their device is completely impossible to break is lying to you, because that's just not the way that hardware security and software security work. It's not unbreakable, but the focus is making it as difficult as possible for someone to break into and as time consuming and costly as possible. So for something like this, there are some known exploits on secure elements, the common ones that are used across all manufacturers, but they require like $500,000 in lab equipment, expertise. They require lots of time to break into them. You'd have a lot of chances to move your funds before anything would happen. And that's only going to be possible by literally a nation state. Not even like local law enforcement or something is going to be able to do that. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. It buys you a ton of time and makes it where, like, if your cousin realizes that you own Bitcoin and that you have a passport and he steals this, there's no way in hell he's getting the Bitcoin off of it. It's just not going to happen. We have protections that allow you to only do 21 PIN attempts. And we do that using the secure element. So you can't fake it and allow yourself to do more PIN attempts. So no one's going to break a 6 or 8 digit PIN in 21 attempts unless you tell them. And no one's going to break the actual physical security of this through a secure element unless they're literally the NSA or a very large nation state. So I think those are the biggest things that I want to cover there. I'm really not worried about security. The key thing, though, in that case is if this is confiscated, you better have your backup squared away, because you need a way to be able to actually recover your funds when you get back home. TSA takes this, they confiscate it, they keep it. You need a way to be able to get into your Bitcoin again. So that's where you need to either have something like your seed stamped on steel, or you need to use encrypted microSD backups, which is something that we do on Passport as well, which allows you to essentially just put a file somewhere and then keep a 20-digit code stamped on steel, or potentially in like a good intent encrypted password manager like Bitwarden. And then all you need is a copy of that file and that 20-digit code, and you can restore Passport back to exactly how it was before, with all the accounts, the naming, the customizations, etc.
Amen. Yeah, it's the key aspect there is it buys you time, right? It buys you a lot of time if it gets confiscated. Not to mention, you can get tricky with it. You can add a 25th word. You can use a multi-sig setup with geographically separated seeds. So it moves the balance of power. It really kind of shifts the discussion. They don't call it unconfiscatable for no reason, right? It makes it very, very difficult to do so. And then, okay, fine. Like, let's just say a nation state focuses on one individual and they have to jump through all these hoops, spend all of that money. Try doing that on a mass scale, right? It's going to be very difficult to do so. So that's the whole point. Anyways, Seth, if you had one last question or one last statement to leave the audience, what would you tell them?
I mean, the biggest thing for me with all this talk of inflation, shrinkflation, ETFs, all of the craziness that's going on in the world, is just realize that Bitcoin is a powerful tool for freedom. Take advantage of it by actually taking self-custody. ETFs are fine if you want price exposure in your 401k or whatever, but they're not going to give you freedom. They might give you more fiat. They're not going to give you freedom. So take that time, self-custody, learn how simple self-custody can actually be. At Foundation, that's our real vision, is trying to make it as approachable as possible. Download Envoy. You can go ahead and set up a wallet in 60 seconds without having to write down a seed phrase. Very straightforward, very powerful. When you realize that you want to store your generational wealth not on your phone, which most people should find a better way to do that, move into something like Passport. Make sure that whatever option you choose values free and open source software that values your privacy, and make sure that you use Bitcoin as a tool for freedom. Don't just use it as a way to make more fiat. Use it as a tool for freedom, because I think that's something that often gets missed in the space that I want people to understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, you could check the link in the video description, and the QR codes that we've posted up many, many times take you directly to the Foundation Devices website. Go to foundationdevices.com/simply and get yourself a passport, get yourself a hardware wallet. Remember, guys, not your keys, not your cheese. You want to put your generational wealth in cold storage. You do not want to leave it on a hot wallet. I've heard nightmare stories. Don't put yourself in that position. I also do want to give a shout out to the poll. Opti asked in the beginning of the episode, are we getting into number go up season? There was
number go up only season. Nico.
Number go up only season. There was 308 votes. Yes, 75% of you said yes, and 25% of you said not yet. Anyways, guys, this was the Monday, February 12th edition of Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm your host, Nico's, my co-host, Optimus Fields. I want to thank our guest, Seth, for privacy. Thank you so much for joining us on Simply Bitcoin today. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for having me. Y'all do a great show here.
Thanks, Seth. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. But the number one thing you could do to help push the peaceful Bitcoin revolution is share Bitcoin culture. If you're in a box with Beyonce and Jay-Z, wear that Satoshi shirt. You got to do it. You got to do it. Take agency, take action. We love you all. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.